Hey, what's up everyone? I wanted to come on and do a follow-up to the video that I did yesterday. It's not really a follow-up, but it touches on a similar aspect a lot of people aren't aware of, and even a good number of Catholics who are well informed about their faith sometimes have this confused, and it's understandable. It's an understandable confusion, and that's the differences between the Eastern Orthodox and the Oriental Orthodox. What are the differences between the two of them? A lot of people don't understand that there's actually two groups of Orthodox. You have your Eastern Orthodox, who are commonly, and they're the much larger group out of the two of them. But the Eastern Orthodox are usually Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox, Serbian Orthodox, Romanian Orthodox, Bulgarian Orthodox. There's many different ethnicities that identify as Eastern Orthodox. And then on the other side, there's Oriental Orthodox. Now, they both have the same name, Orthodox, but yet they're two different groups, and I'm going to explain in a bit what the differences are between them. But the Oriental Orthodox are groups like the Coptic Orthodox and the Ethiopian Orthodox. There's Syrian Orthodox, and one of the largest groups is the Armenian Orthodox. So what are the two differences? What's different between the Eastern Orthodox and the Oriental Orthodox? Well, let me explain. In the year 451 at the Council of Chalcedon, there was a group excommunicated from the Catholic Church. And that group, they were labeled as Monophysites. And what the difference was is that the Catholics believed that Christ had two natures, and the Catholic Church condemned the Monophysites, who they said believed Christ had one nature. So Catholics believed that Christ has a human nature and a divine nature, which were distinct and separate from each other. They were not opposed to each other, but they were distinct and separate from each other. The Monophysites, on the other hand, believed that Christ had a human and divine nature, but it was fused together into one nature. So the Catholic Church said that this belief in one nature is heretical. The reason they said that is because if Christ only had one nature, then he was not 100% human, nor was he 100% divine. It was like a 50-50 split fused together into one nature. Now, there's been many things that have happened since the Council of Chalcedon in our understanding and in ecumenical relations that have changed the scenario. So I'm going to explain a little bit of that as we go along. But that group of Monophysites became known as the Oriental Orthodox. So today you have the Armenian Orthodox, the Coptic Orthodox, the Ethiopian Orthodox, the Syrian Orthodox, and there may be a few others in there that I've forgotten, but those are definitely the largest of the groups. The Coptics are the Copts. They're the largest of the group. I think they roughly have about 20 million people throughout the world, and most of them are in Egypt. And the Pope of Alexandria, who currently is Pope Tadros, and formerly was Pope Shenouda, who you've probably seen probably the most out of any Oriental Orthodox patriarch, and he claims to be the spiritual head of all Oriental Orthodox Christians. Now, he's not quite like the Catholic Pope. He doesn't claim to have a primacy over the other patriarchs, but he does claim a spiritual fathership, so he would be almost a first amongst equals, according to their theology. Now, in practice, he basically functions like the Pope in Rome does, in a practical manner. So the difference is purely theological, but in practice, he functions basically as the Pope in Rome would. So that group is the Oriental Orthodox, the Monophysites. Now, the other group is the Eastern Orthodox. Now, the Eastern Orthodox, most people attribute a schism within the Catholic Church roughly to the year 1054 AD. Now, a lot of people say, well, that was the start, but the true schism was really later on, sometime in the 15th century. And so there's a lot of confusion around that, and there's a lot of debate around what the actual date of the schism was. Because if you look in history, even at the later Western church councils, which we consider as Catholics ecumenical councils, the Orthodox bishops usually attended. Although there was definitely some separation, but the separation really can go back even before 1054, because in the 9th century, in the mid 800s, there was a patriarch in Constantinople named Photius who really began the rift. And it was never official, but there began to be a rift between Rome and Constantinople. And then in 1054 it exploded again, and then especially in the 15th century, and with the sack of Constantinople by the Crusaders, that really exhausted any chance for a reconciliation. So that group is named the Eastern Orthodox. That's who we refer to as the Eastern Orthodox. Now, one of the biggest differences is that the Eastern Orthodox accept the first 7 councils, the first 7 ecumenical councils that the Catholic Church does. So those 7 councils we share in common. The Oriental Orthodox, on the other hand, they only accept the first 3 councils, the first 3 ecumenical councils that Catholics, Eastern Orthodox, and Oriental Orthodox all accept. Only the first 3. At Chalcedon, that is the council they do not, at least officially, accept. Now, to give a little bit of background about some of the developments in recent times, so on both the Catholic and Eastern Orthodox side towards Oriental Orthodox, the Copts especially, through the papacy of Shenouda and the previous pope, but I forget his name now. Somebody can maybe add it in the comments below. But and then especially with Tadros, the current pope in Alexandria, relations have definitely warmed between the Eastern Orthodox and Orientals, and then between the Oriental Orthodox and Catholics. Pope John Paul II actually signed an agreement with the Syrian Orthodox Patriarch where they allowed intermarriage, which was somewhat of a breakthrough in relations, because beforehand it was very tough for Oriental Orthodox and Roman Catholics and even Eastern Catholics to be married to one another. But that was a landmark agreement. I think it was Patriarch Ignatius, if I'm not mistaken there, who signed that agreement with Pope John Paul II. And then the Coptic Pope has, and over a number of years, they have insisted, there was actually, I'm kind of getting sidetracked here, but there was actually a reconciliation between this Oriental Orthodox communion, led by the Copts mostly, and the Catholic Church at the Council of, it escapes me right now, at the Council of Florence, where the Oriental Orthodox, and some say, well, especially on the Oriental side, they say, well, it was because of political reasons that there was a reconciliation. But the Oriental Orthodox rejoined the Catholic Church at the Council of Florence, and the union unfortunately did not last long. The union broke apart because a lot of the bishops in Egypt did not accept the union, and therefore it fell apart. And then later on, we actually had a Coptic Pope who became a Catholic, or maybe it was a Coptic bishop who became a Catholic, but I believe it was a Coptic Pope. He became a Catholic, and subsequently there was a short-lived reunion that happened, and it didn't really work out, and still to this day we have separation. But one of the things that the Copts have always insisted, the Coptic Pope has insisted, is that in fact the Coptic Church, or the Oriental Orthodox bishops, were misunderstood at the Council of Chalcedon. They were not monophysites, they claim. They claim that in fact they were miaphysites, which now it seems like it's just a play on words, but it actually means a big difference. A miaphysite means that they believe that Christ had 2 natures, but yet it was joined together with one will. I believe that's the definition. And Pope Benedict XVI has said, well, that's not heretical to be a Miaphysite. There's no heresy there. And it seems like there was a difference in understanding between the Greek languages and the Coptic language, which led to that misunderstanding. So they say. I mean, we're talking about something that happened 1600 years ago, so it's tough to judge what actually happened. All we have is what comes down to us in writing from the fathers and from the sessions of the council. But regardless, let's give the Copts the benefit of the doubt. Now, however, the Armenians, they don't claim to be Miaphysites, from what I understand. They still claim to be Monophysites. So they don't hold to the same definition as the Copts. Now, does that mean that there can be an easy reconciliation between the Catholic Church and the Oriental Orthodox? Well, it definitely is a lot easier if we can agree in principle that each side is not heretical, at least on the issue, the dividing issue from the Council of Chalcedon. But there's so many other issues now that have to be worked out. Obviously, the Catholic Church, we have far more councils than ecumenical councils than just 3. So that part of it would all obviously have to be worked out. Then there's the matter of church governance. There's some doctrines that the Oriental Orthodox do not accept, such as the doctrine of purgatory. Now, they do pray for their dead in their Mass. So that begs the question, well, if people when they die are either in heaven or hell, what's the purpose of praying for the dead? And that's a question that would be, I'm going to leave for people that are Oriental Orthodox to try to answer for us.